Good afternoon. My name is Steve Fink. I'm an Associate Athletic Director at the University of South Carolina, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's press conference as we begin a new chapter in Gamecock basketball with the introduction of our new men's basketball coach. The format for today's press conference has Athletics Director Ray Tanner introducing our new coach. After a brief photo opportunity, Coach Paris will share his thoughts with an opening statement, then we'll open up for questions from the media after that. With that, I'll turn the program over to Coach Tanner.
Thank you. That was seemed like a golf clap to me, but I'll take it. I appreciate all of you being here today. It is a historical day at the University of South Carolina. Before I share a couple of remarks, I want to recognize a couple of people. First, Chance Miller is back here in the back. Wave, Chance. There you go. Chance is our Deputy Athletics Director, and he's been with me throughout this search from noon to the next noon to the next morning. There were a couple of nights that I think we were less than 3 hours sleep, but it was great. So we had a great time, and thank you for all the work that you did. I'd like to recognize Dr. Pastides. I spoke with him today. He's on a trip in Croatia right now. I'd like to recognize our Board of Trustees also for their work in this process and approving our contract for our new coach. I'd like to recognize Chad Chatlos from Turnkey Search, who was involved with us as he was with Coach Beamer when he came to the university. So recognize the great work that Chad has done. I said before this search began that we wanted to hire someone that had a winning coaching history, someone who has energy, passion, and commitment to excellence in all areas of the student-athlete experience. Coach Paris truly checks all of those boxes. Coach Paris has been a part of 9 NCAA tournaments that played in those 9 tournaments a total of 26 games. He's been a part of 17 20-win seasons at his coaching stops as a head coach and as an assistant. During his 7-year stint at Wisconsin, and last week I got a chance to talk to the legendary Bo Ryan about Coach Paris, and it was a great conversation. He's retired, so he has plenty of time to talk, and he shared a lot of things. But what I'm going to share with you now is a great experience that our coach had with Coach Ryan and Coach Gard. The 7 years that he spent at Wisconsin, Sweet 16 followed by a Sweet 16, back to the NCAA tournament in the 3rd year, Final Four in the 4th year, played in the championship game the 5th year, the 6th year and the 7th year, back to the Sweet 16. So quite a run when he was at the University of Wisconsin. When he arrived in Chattanooga, he improved his net rating in 5 consecutive years. The 5 years he was there, the net rating got better each year. This year resulting in a championship of the Southern Conference that got him an opportunity to play the Fighting Illini in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I know that he would rather I stop talking at this point, but it was, if you had a chance to watch, it was one heck of a game, and he lost by a point after winning the entire game except the last 20-plus seconds. 25 to be exact. That was the bad news. The good news is because his team was eliminated, it was an opportunity, ethically, for us to engage in conversation. So after a loss on Friday, he was in Columbia, South Carolina on Saturday night. So that led us to where we are today. Also, he was a Southern Conference Coach of the Year this past year. In short, Lamont Paris understands winning, what it takes to win, and he's always been around winners and teams that won. I already know he's a great competitor, he's a teacher, he's genuine, he's caring, and he's reliable. Today, I could not be more excited to welcome Coach Lamont Paris to our university, our community, the city of Columbia, and our great state of South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our 33rd head men's basketball coach, Lamont Paris. Here. Good job. Let me move my notebook.
Thanks for that kind introduction, Coach. Part of my contract was that a percentage, depending on how many nice things Coach said about me up here, was going to go right back into his salary. So I appreciate being here, and I want to thank everyone for being here today. It's a bittersweet moment, honestly, as a college basketball coach. There were a lot of ups and downs in this past season. We won the regular season. We won the conference championship. We advanced to the NCAA tournament, and there are all these highs. You go into a game against Illinois, who won the Big Ten regular season championship. We play a great game. We come out of the gates. We're up 20-6. We're riding high. We're playing great. We're throwing punches. We're just winning. We're just winning the game. And then you come out of a game that you lead for 39 minutes and 35 seconds, and you come out with a loss. And so you go from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows. That's a very tough moment for not only for me, but for our players in particular. And so I say it's bittersweet because then I got the call from Coach, and my fortunes and my emotions and my feelings all started to change. As I learned more about him, as I learned more about this program, and I learned more about my opportunity to be a part of this great institution, this great basketball program, and this fantastic conference. So it was a roller coaster ride of emotions, and it ended on a high, fortunately for me. So that was awesome, and I'm extremely grateful. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be the coach of this institution and to be the face of this program as we move forward. And I can't say that enough and how excited I am about that. And why would that be? The history of this great institution, from some of the great players that we've had here and coaches, and Frank McGuire to the likes of Alex English, to there are plenty more, to where the conference is. It's a world-renowned conference, basketball conference that way, and football, obviously. And I think it's at the height that I've ever witnessed it in the sport of men's basketball. So very exciting to be a part of that. Very excited to be a part of this institution. There are a lot of good things going on here. If you look at the growth that's taken place in the high quality of output and a multitude of teams, it's just really exciting to be a part of that and to be able to bring, to continue moving basketball towards championships as well. It's exciting to see the growth that's taken place from a facilities and resources standpoint. That's a very exciting thing for me to be a part of. And so I could list 100,000 things, but to say the least, I'm very glad to be here and glad to be the head coach in the face of this program, that's for sure. Before I get into any mission statement type of thing, I want to thank some people. And my thank you list is going to be pretty short because there is no middle with me. It's either got to be extremely short or we're going to be here until tomorrow. So I'm going to choose for the short, and that way I don't leave anyone out, but I do want to make sure that I address a couple specific groups of people and some individuals as well. First of all, I'd like to thank Frank Martin and his staff for the work that they have done here and putting this program in the state that it is now, and with so much optimism to move forward. I would be remiss if I didn't thank President Pastides. We spoke on the phone. He told me he was going to be out of the country, and it was not by intention. It was already planned. I wanted to thank Ray Tanner, of course, in his role, along with the Board of Trustees and Chance Miller in recognizing greatness when they see it. What am I supposed to say? Honestly, though, but obviously their role was very important in bringing me to this position. And so I thank them for that and the time that we've spent together. I thank all the former players and coaches that I've been around. I've been very fortunate. Coach mentioned Bo Ryan. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a legend. But there have been, and by the way, it's not just because he's retired that he had a lot of time to talk. So, but a phenomenal coach. I've been around phenomenal coaches and players my entire career. I feel blessed to have that and had those experiences, particularly the players. You never know. You always forget the impact that you've had on a guy's life, and you see it when it's there. And I will single out one player in particular. Keaton Nankivell is his name, and he texted me. I coached him, I guess now 12 years ago. It was my first year at Wisconsin, so 12 years. And he was a good player. I liked him. I liked his mom and brother, and so we had a good relationship, but you never know. And I haven't kept in touch with Keaton during this whole time. And, you know, he's busy doing his thing, playing and getting on with life. I'm doing the same thing. And this opportunity comes up, and he texted me, and I hadn't heard from him literally in 12 years. And he texted me, and he said, "Coach, I just am so fortunate to have been a part of this timeline in your career, and I feel blessed about that." And so you don't know that you have an impact on a guy like that until something like this happens. And so I want to thank all the players that I've ever been around that have reached out, and it's been a ton, too many to list, that's for sure. And I'm grateful. I'm thankful for having been around those guys and been able to coach those guys and work with those guys, as well as the coaches that I've been with. And then the last two people that I'll thank, you know, I don't think anyone gets anywhere in life without great guidance and leadership. And I'm a first-generation college student, and no one in the history of my family had ever gone to college. And so I take that very seriously. I take education. I take the impact that I have on our guys to develop holistically. I take that stuff very importantly. And for me, it started, I always knew when I was young that I was going to go to college. And oftentimes you know that because your parents went and your grandparents went and everyone around you went to college, and it's just kind of what you do. You go to the same school or university that they went to. It's just what you do. It's planned. It's paid for. Everything is there. And that wasn't the case for me. My dad was in the Marines, and then after that moved on to civilian life and worked a variety of jobs. He was an extremely hard worker. Worked in a factory mainly, and my mom was a homemaker. And while they didn't go to college, they had a PhD in parenting. Excuse me. And that's a huge part of why I am who I am and why I'm here. So thank you to them. And both of my parents have passed away, and so I get really sentimental when I talk about them. Now, on to the fun stuff. More lighthearted stuff, because there's serious things and then there's fun things. This is fun for me. It's hard work. I commit a lot of time, a lot of effort to this profession, to anyone I work with, to any university that I represent, to any young man that I recruit and his family, to certainly any student athlete that decides to come here and play for me. My commitment is unrivaled to them. It just is. I don't break my arm to pat myself on the back for many things, but my commitment to them is unrivaled. So we'll talk about some of my objectives while I'm here as the head coach at this university. One is to engage the community, and I'm going to do that by diving in. And you'll know that more so than me saying it or telling it. You'll feel that and you'll see it. And so that's a big part of what I have done throughout my career. I probably had 20 individuals that I was in contact with the University of Wisconsin that years later followed me and came down, made a pilgrimage to Chattanooga to watch us play in person. So that'll tell you about just relationships, and I'm a big relationship person in every aspect of this thing. But I'm going to dive in to engaging this community. Embracing the past while building for the future is something that I definitely want to do. I respect the past. I embrace the past. There have been some really good players and coaches here, and without that past, there is no future. So I want to welcome all former players to coming back, to being a part of what we do, and to coming into the office and getting a chance to meet me, to meet the players that I'm going to recruit and bring into this program. I encourage that. I welcome that, and I hope that that starts pretty quickly. And so that'll be a big thing for me as well. And then one of the biggest things for me is enhancing the student-athlete experience. It's why I do what I do. There were a lot of ways that I could have made money in life. I was a business economics major in college. Coaching, my first really full-time coaching job, I made $10,000 before taxes were taken out. I couldn't believe they had the nerve to take taxes out at that point, but they did. But so I don't do it for that. I do it for the student-athlete experience. And a lot of people are going to say that, but someone did that for me. I was that guy, and I was learning things that I didn't know I was learning through the game of basketball, but really about life and about how to be a good neighbor and about how to handle failures and successes and all that all those things. And so I think it's very important. I think it's very important that you have a real, true mentor and leader. And so I'm so committed to improving and enhancing the student-athlete experience, and there are a variety of ways to do that. But that's a real commitment for me. One of them, as basketball players, I think really helps that is winning. You work hard. Everybody works hard. There are 358 Division I men's basketball teams. None of them are not working hard, I don't think, particularly early on in the season. You continue to work hard by having more belief and faith based on how you've performed oftentimes. But they all work hard. They all travel. They all make sacrifices. They're all committed to this. They all are. And I've always believed that every student athlete deserves to play in the NCAA tournament, and I always will believe that. Unfortunately, not many will get to do that. That's just a fact based on the numbers. Not many, a small percentage get to do that ever. I've been fortunate enough to be able to be in the seat sitting next to it a lot of times. I took it for granted, to be honest with you. Sometimes I thought automatically you just went to the tournament until I got my first job at Chattanooga, and we had 22 losses in that season. So that was reality, right? And there are a lot of kids that's reality for. So my commitment to making sure that that's not the experience, that these guys, young men, do have the experience of playing an NCAA tournament and winning games, I think it's a big part of enriching and enhancing the student-athlete experience. So that's a big thing for me as well. Recruiting is a big part of what I do. That's an objective of mine. And it starts in this great state of South Carolina. The talent pool here is rich. It's really good. And I don't just mean, well, there were 2 players that were ranked in the top 10. I don't mean that. I mean the depth of talent in this state is at a high level. And there are some really high level kids, players, athletes, students that are in this state. So that'll be the first thing. I will recruit this state incredibly hard. I'll be committed to that. We'll know my staff and I will know every young man that has potential to play at this level. Not just the guys that are in the top 10 in the country. People in Texas know those guys. People in California know those guys. But we're going to know some other guys that can help us win games here that people don't believe can help us win games here. And I think that's how you develop longevity, consistency, right? I think that's how you reproduce a consistent level of performance, is by having depth. And this state is a great place to start. It's a great state for a lot of reasons, but particularly because the talent level in this state is tremendous. And so I'm going to be committed to that. I don't get to compete at many things. I look at the games, it's not really, I don't really feel like I compete during the games. It's the moment that these guys go out there, they lace their shoes up, it's their moment. I just try to push a couple buttons on the sideline and look halfway decent if I can. They do all the hard work over there. But one area that I do compete is in recruiting. That's an area that I get to compete. That's me versus them. And I won't lose because of effort. It just won't happen. I won't lose because I didn't turn over a stone or lift up a leaf or get under a bush. I won't. And then another objective of mine, I've talked about this, simply is to win. I think to win at a high level. The barriers that stand between winning, there aren't a ton here. I know we've been in 9 NCAA tournaments in the school history. I'd like to add to that. That's my objective. I'd like to add at a fast rate. I don't think it's a 6-year project. I'd like to add quickly to that. Playing in the postseason, playing in the NCAA tournament. It's why I do this. It's why guys come to practice. It's why they wake up early. It's why they run hills. It's why they lift weights. It's why they do community service. It's why they go to classes. It's why they make sacrifices. It's why they don't have the social life that someone else does. It's why they do all the things they do. It's why they do all the things they do, because they want to win at a really high level. And I'm going to chaperone them through that process. That's my job. I'm not going to make one bucket. I think I looked at the stat sheet. I still have scored 0 points as a coach. It hadn't happened yet. I've tried. It's not for lack of effort. But I haven't made any points as a coach. They're going to do all that. They're going to do all the work. But I'll push some buttons. I'll get the right guys here. Most of my work will be done in a practice facility. That's where most of my work gets done. It yields a high level of success, and it yields results for sure. So, but we'll get the right guys doing that. We'll get the right guys doing that. So those are my basic objectives. How do you win? You do it with people. I'll do part of it will be in the recruiting process. I'm a teacher. That's what I like to do. I enjoy getting out on the court, and I'm going to be banging around and bumping around with guys and pulling and shoving and throwing passes to them and challenging shots and blocking guys out and showing what it looks like and demonstrating. That's who I am as a coach. I'll be out there doing that stuff. The kids tend to respond to it well in one way or the other. They either learn something or they get a kick out of it, one or the other. So, that's and how do you get to that winning? One is the recruiting, the type of guys that we're here. 2 is teaching, being committed to working on and teaching the things that are most important in winning a basketball game, and the things that don't have as much impact in the total outcome of the game. I'm not going to spend quite as much time on those things, even though some of the players, they want to do the double step back James Harden. But I just, to this date, I don't know, I haven't seen that be conducive to winning championships. Otherwise, that would be the first thing we would be practicing. So, but we're going to practice the things that matter the most in terms of winning a basketball game, and that's what I've learned throughout my career. We're going to play solid defense. Sorry, that's what I think you have to do. I think if you look in the NCAA tournament, there just aren't a lot of teams that say, hey, let's let them go ahead and do their thing, and then we'll come down and do our thing. So we are going to do that, right? But not at the expense of offense. Not at the expense of offense. We averaged 70 points or 75 points per game this last season, and we didn't shoot the ball near as well as I thought we were capable of. We probably should have averaged closer to 78 points, which would have been, in the country, it's a good number, right? Now, someone's going to tell you, if you look at the top 100 teams in the country, people don't score 85 points a game. It's not realistic. If you're playing bad teams, maybe, but when you get in the NCAA tournament, they don't let bad teams into the NCAA tournament. So my whole deal is preparing to win in the NCAA tournament. 1, how do you get there? 2, when you get there, how do you win? And that's what I told my team at Chattanooga. We went into that game not hoping to compete. We expected to win the game, period. We had practices where we addressed that. Well, why would we do this? We would do that if we were only trying to win the Southern Conference. We're trying to do something else. We're trying to win in the NCAA tournament. And so that's what my preparation will be for. But style of play, we're going to play solid defense, right? I'm going to be regimented on the defensive end. I'm going to be loose and free on the offensive end. I keep making the joke, but it's the honest to goodness truth. If you can't be a confident offensive player playing for me as coach, then you just aren't going to be a confident offensive player. It's not going to happen. So we identify areas that guys are going to be successful. Then my job is to push a couple buttons maybe to get them somewhere near those situations. And then at that point, you know what happens? They do their thing. It's on them. They do their thing. If they like the shot, I have to love it. I don't have a lot of say-so on it at that point, okay? So it's a pretty good philosophy. Guys have liked playing for me. They've really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's for some of the jokes I tell or if it's because they like, the way I let them play. I think it's probably more of the latter than the former. So anyway, with that, those are some of my main objectives. I'd open it up to questions just to see if anyone's interested in hearing anything more about anything specific.
If you raise your hand, we'll get a microphone for you. We've got Mike and Matt. The microphones. David, you would introduce yourself as well.
Hi, Lamont. David Cloninger with the Charleston Post and Courier. Good to meet you. You mentioned recruiting. Just since your contract was approved this afternoon, I'm curious, have you reached out to anyone? Have you started talking to potential recruits either in the transfer portal or elsewhere to build this roster? I
have. I've been doing that. Certainly, some of the young men that are committed to coming here, I've connected with that group of young men as well. But certainly in prospecting for some other recruits, I've been busy. It's been a busy couple of days, and my phone doesn't stop ringing, and I give priority to the recruits. So yes, I've already hit the ground running with that. I have plans to get on the road tomorrow to see a potential prospect and a young man I think could really help us here.
Thank you very much. Judy Gatson from WIS-TV. A bit of a long question. Our sports director is actually up in Greensboro with the women's team, but I talked with him today, and he's a little bit of a trivia buff as well. He said that you're a finalist for the Ben Jobe National Coach of the Year Award, which is presented to the top Division I minority coach. Are you aware that Ben Jobe was the Gamecocks' first black assistant head coach in the 1970s, and what does it mean for you to be a finalist for that award and also to be a head coach at the school where he made history?
Yeah, it's a pleasure meeting you, by the way. But yes, it's the gravity of that it's tremendous. It's extremely impactful. Just to be even mentioned on that list, honestly, is a tremendous opportunity to show that you've grown and honor to be on that list. But yeah, I think also as it represents growth. I'm honored to be the first African-American men's basketball coach here. I take that responsibility seriously, as I do a lot of other things. There'll be a lot of guys that are under me that are young guys in the coaching profession right now, and they're going to be judged, like it or not, right or wrong, to some degree. They're going to be judged by how I succeed or don't succeed, how I carry myself, how I handle business. And so that's extremely important for me to set a good example from them or for them, and to allow them to have opportunities that I've been afforded, and even more opportunities by looking at a guy like me and where I came from and how I started and where I am now, and watching the success as we have it here at South Carolina. So great question, but I'm honored to be a part of that.
Lamont, Michael Anana with the State newspaper. Nice
Michael,
to meet you.
You too.
I got a couple for you.
Okay.
The first one, I happened to hear you on a Chattanooga radio station a few days ago and heard you do a spot-on Charles Barkley impersonation. Curious if you had other impressions in your wheelhouse or other hidden talents. Can you sing? Can you dance? I mean...
Yeah. I do a couple impersonations. I do if we get to be close enough, I do a Morgan Freeman. That's okay. People think some of them are good. I just, I'm being me. I'm a lighthearted guy. I'm serious when I need to be, but this is life. And so I enjoy life. I have fun. I work really hard, but I enjoy life. But yeah, there's some other things. I saw someone sent me a picture of a tweet that someone made about how good of a person I am and how good of a coach I was, and then they got to the real nitty-gritty and they said, what you don't want to do though is play him in a game of pool. And so that's always been something that I've been good at. But yeah, I don't know. I think people think my impersonations are good. I always don't think they're that good, but clearly they have been.
Yeah, just
Not on the spot.
But just along those lines, I mean, fans here are used to a certain personality with Frank Martin over the last 10 years, and you kind of touched on it there. Just what kind of personality can fans expect from you as you take on this program?
You'll get a chance to meet me and be around me and see me, and I have fun. I enjoy life. Hey, sometimes we're going to lose. That's part of the whole deal. And so it's not the end of the world when it happens. It doesn't mean I'm always going to be in the best mood. Right after we lost that type of game to Illinois in the NCAA tournament, it was probably not the time for me to be someone asking me to do a Charles Barkley impersonation. But I enjoy life. I have a lot of personality. I'm calm on the sidelines. My work is done in the gym. By the time we get to the game, the hay's already in the barn. So this is one man's opinion. The crazier you're going during the game, it just reminds me something during practice wasn't happening that needed to be happening. So, sans a terrible officiating call, I will be demonstrative at that time. But other than that, I stay calm. I treat the guys with respect. They're trying to do what I ask them to do, so I treat them with respect. We have lighthearted moments. It's a different type of young man in 2022. I don't know if we've noticed, but in 1985, there were certain things that don't go over in 2022. They just don't. We've done things like play music. If I think the guys have had a good enough week to earn it during the week, we'll play music at the shoot-arounds and on the weekends. And and they know at the moment they stop paying attention and they get a little too goofy in there, the music goes off and we get right back at it. But I just think it's a different time. They're a different group of kids. They have responded well to how I interact with them, and they've seemed to really like it. And they let me coach them because of that. And I don't, I'm a player's coach, and when people say that, oftentimes it means you let them do whatever they want to do. That's not the case, and my guys will tell you. I tell them the truth, and I'll tell them the truth, but I do it in a way because of all the credit I've built up with them that they accept that truth the same way that your children accept the truth when you tell them as parents. And so they generally will try to do what you ask them to do. So.
Colin Taylor, Gamecock Central. I'm curious from a staff perspective, do you know anyone who's going to be joining you already on staff? And when you're building out a staff, what are you kind of looking for from your assistant coaches?
Yeah, good question. I don't know for sure. One of my assistant coaches right now is going to be in contention for the Chattanooga job. So depending on what happens with that, some dominoes will fall. But I will say this. There's no shortage of interest in people that want to come work at this university, in this conference, and in spite of the fact that I'm the coach here. So it's humor again. But, yeah, honestly, I can't tell you. Former NBA guys, NBA coaches, NBA interim head coaches, there's no shortage. So my main priority right now will be to hit the ground running in the recruiting. And then once I get a handle on that and we get into a dead period, I'll start looking more at staff. But again, some of it depends on what happens with my assistant coach because he's really, 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 really good.
What are you looking for as staff member?
I think guys that are good teachers. I think that's important. I think guys that relate well to me. Obviously, they got to be good at recruiting, good at, they have to have a good knowledge base. But the vast majority at this level they're going to have those qualifications met already. So it comes down to fit and finish oftentimes, and so I will want guys that have a very high level of recruiting success. I think that's very important, and most of all, they know me. They can learn me and know me, and when to step on the gas and when to pump the brake. And that's been a good recipe so far. But someone that knows the landscape down here and has some connections down here, I think that there's some level of importance to that, although it's not the end-all be-all. I've been in plenty of places, and I think as long as you roll sleeves up and you recruit the state and they know that you care and you're going to be present in that state, you're going to be able to make inroads.
John Whittle, thebigspur.com. Nice to see you, Coach. Just curious, when do you feel like in the interview process that you won over Ray Tanner? What do you think you said to him?
I don't know. I mean, here's what probably had a little more weight in the whole thing than what I anticipated. I know. I'm going to be right on that line. So, stuff happens so fast. It's just how it happens. And I get the call, and again, I'm down in the dumps based on how the game went, and so all of a sudden there's a spark, and I'm excited again. And I get a call that says, "Hey, can you be down here?" This is Saturday. We played on Friday. The call comes on Saturday. It says, "Hey, can you be down there for an interview on Sunday?" And I said, "Sure. I'd love to get down there for an interview on Sunday." And so we started looking at airline tickets, and there's a 2-hour for American. There's a 2-hour buffer. You must buy your ticket before that window hits. And I was right up against that window, and didn't seem like I was going to make it. So I jumped in my car and I drove down here, and it was about 5 hours. And we get down here, and I don't think Coach even knew that. And he said, "Hey, well, we would have sent the plane up there for you." And I said, "Coach, I didn't know that you were going to send a plane up there for me. I didn't do this for fun." But so I think that made a lasting impression on him, and just who I was in a lot of different ways. One, I'm an old school guy that way, right? I don't think people do that these days near as much when it's not a certainty that you're going to get the job. So I think that was really good. And then two, I think it said a lot about my interest in this position and what I thought about it and what I thought about the school and the university and the program. And actions speak louder than words, they say. And that was a pretty powerful action.
Hey, Lamont. Pete Hannity from WSVA TV.
Pete.
Greenville, Spartanburg. Last 5 years as a head coach, a point or two of maybe how you've grown in your profession and some of the things that you learned on the job there that now can make you better at this next stop.
Yeah, I think you're constantly learning on how to communicate with and relate to these players on a daily basis. I think if you're not doing that, you're going backwards because they're constantly changing, and what they value constantly changes, and their means of communication constantly changes. Their terminology constantly changes, and so I'd say that was probably the biggest thing, is that I've been moving and growing with the kids in terms of all those things. Some people don't do that. Some people have a way of doing it, and that's what they're going to do. And I've been around some of that. That's an older school way of thinking. I've been around some of that, and so and maybe I came in with a little bit of that. But that's different. I don't waver at all on what I know is important to success. I won't waver. I won't take a gamble on character. I won't do it. I'll take a gamble on a kid that maybe doesn't run as fast, is not quite as tall as I would like. I won't do it on character. Maybe a kid that's not quite as good of a student, as an accomplished student, because he came from an area that wasn't equipped to teach him the way that he needed to be taught. I'll take some risks there, but I won't on character. And so anyway, I think that's how I've grown the most, and just in terms of being fluid as to and attentive to what these guys need.
Hey, Lamont. Mike, you have a Gamecock Central.
Mike?
So everyone has their own different styles when it comes to recruiting. I know the man behind me, I know he's active when it comes to Twitter, and Gamecock fans enjoy that. And I know it might seem like a silly question to ask you on the first day, but it doesn't seem like you're on social media. Some of the Gamecock fans are curious as to whether or not you'll use it. And what is your approach in terms of recruiting and going about things that way through social media and just the new era that we're in?
Yeah. Before I answer that, what is this Twitter that you speak of? Yeah, it was a year ago I said I was going to do it. I'm going to do it. I mean, I'm definitely going to do it. It was a year ago I was going to commit to doing that. And it just, I haven't gotten to it. And then someone will send me something on Twitter, and I say, that's exactly right. I'm not on Twitter. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I've found a great way to communicate with these kids on my old school text messaging. But I am going to get into the 2022 year, and I'm going to get social media. How's that?
Hale McGranahan with the Big Spurt. Welcome to 2022 in the social media area. Let me be the first to
Thank you, Hale.
bring you on board with that. What, as far as meeting with the current players, obviously there's some dynamics involved with dealing with that. Have you had a chance to talk with any of the current guys?
Yep. I met with the team earlier today, and seemed like a great group of guys, and so this is a set of circumstances that they did not ask for or had really little to say in as far as their input in this whole deal. They didn't pick me, right? So at least I don't think they did. But yeah, so I had a chance to talk with them as a group and just some formalities and just trying to get to know them a little bit. But as we get in the next couple of days, I'll do individual meetings with each individual and talk about what their goals are, what individually. What their vision for themselves is, how they perceive themselves as a teammate, as a player, and some guys are just going to not like it. They're not going to like me, period, just because I'm a new guy. I'm not the guy that recruited them. That happens sometimes. And then some guys are going to get a chance to know me, and they're going to say, whoa, this is a fresh start. I think I could really thrive in this guy's system or with the way that he's going to teach me and coach me and respond to me. And so I'm looking forward to having those conversations and figuring that out. But what I won't do, I won't try to strong arm a young man into staying here if it's not the best thing for him. I won't do it. He's not going to perform well. He's not going to play. He's not going to buy in. I'm going to ask him to do some things that maybe he's never been asked to do. They're not going to be fun, but they're going to be conducive to winning. That's for sure. And so I'm going to need them to believe in that in order to do those things. And so if a person doesn't want to be around for that, it's not, they didn't ask for these circumstances. I will help them find the best situation for themselves. The student-athlete experience is my number one thing, honestly. And so if it's here with me, great. I think it'll be a good scenario. But if it's not, also, why would I? I'm not going to try to force that upon anyone.
Hey, Lamont, Ben Portnoy with the State newspaper here in Columbia. I just wanted to ask you about your time at Wisconsin. Obviously, I know it's a different league, so it's maybe a little bit of a different dynamic. But what do you feel like you kind of learned from that experience and working with Bo and Greg? And, how did you feel like that translated in terms of what you did at Chattanooga? And now, how does that maybe carry over now to another power conference job as well here at South Carolina?
Yeah, I think there are two different areas of real learning there. One was valuing the things that matter the most, I think that just makes sense. The things that are most impactful, I think you have to spend more time on them. I think you have to, the things that are most controllable, I think you have to be able to control those by decisions versus some uncontrollable things that maybe also don't affect the outcome of the game that much. Let's not spend a lot of time on those. I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned. And then the other thing had to do more with just character and development and building and what that looks like and how to build infrastructure and when your best two players leave, how are you good again? Now, how did that happen, right? We had, for example, Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker. Frank went 8th in the NBA draft. He was National Player of the Year. Just texted me yesterday and congratulated me, by the way. You talk about a clown. That guy was a clown. Sorry, Frank. But I think he owns that. But anyway, we lost him and we lost Sam Decker, who I think was the 14th pick or somewhere around there in the NBA draft that year. Well, how are you good again the next year? I mean, how does that happen that you're good again the next year? Well, it's because there are layers and there's depth and there's that's all baked in. That's all baked in. And that's how you build, that's how you sustain. We can build a team to be good one year, and then you can try that again the next year, and it might work. And then you can try it again the next year, and that might work also. But if you build that infrastructure, then the chances of you being good again are really good. You got guys that know your terminology. You got guys that are in your program. You got guys that are waiting for that opportunity. And then you sprinkle in some other guys in the transfer portal or some new young guys that can be impactful. And so I think those are the two areas just in terms of the construction of your team from a personnel standpoint and how you build in longevity and consistency, right? And then in terms of what's most important from a basketball standpoint and how you win games.
Lamont, Corey Diaz with the USA Today Network. Kind of piggybacking off of Hale's question, it could be possible that you might have to dip into the transfer portal a little bit to kind of just rebuild this roster. You've got some success with that. What's the value that you put in recruiting high school guys as well as transfer portal guys, and how do you just sort of start that evaluation process?
Yeah, it's just the landscape of recruiting has changed, and so again, as Pete was asking about growth and all that, and how that's part of it. You have to adapt to what's out there and use the tools that are out there, and so I think the transfer portal can be a great way to supplement what you have going, particularly as you take a job over or you're getting started with something. I think it'd be a great way to supplement and help you in that process. But I think it takes a good mixture of older guys and younger guys, right? I've never been in a circumstance where 13 guys, you have 13 Division I scholarships in men's basketball. I've never been in a situation where 13 guys that honestly thought they should be playing 30 minutes a game. I've never seen that team succeed. I don't know how that works. And so I think you need some young guys that when they go to practice the first day, there's an older guy that gave it to them pretty good. And they know, hey, I got some work to do, man. Where'd that weight room go? And so I think you have to have some guys that know what their role is, and they don't have to always like their role. They have to accept their role, for one, right? It can always change with me in particular. Some guys it's a little harder to change a role. It can change with me, but you have to accept your role, and then you have to thrive in that role, and every role is important. You might be a towel waver. That might be your role. That's an important role. You may be an emotional picker-upper on the team, right? And you put your arm around a guy, or you decipher something. Maybe I get on a guy pretty aggressively, and you're the guy that translates it into a way where it's completely absorbed by him. That role is important now. So is the role of the guy that scores 20. That's an important role. The guy that scores 20, however, it's harder for him to reproduce that role every single day. It is. No matter how you slice it, it's harder. I can wave that towel no matter what coach says to me, no matter how the game went the day before. I can be excited about waving that towel. And so I think every role is important. Guys have to accept that. And so I'll use the transfer portal as a tool, but I will not neglect high school recruiting. I won't. I've had a lot of kids that transfer. I think we've had so much success with it because I'm honest with them in the process. They know what my vision is for them. It aligns with their vision. There are no guarantees or promises made in that, but I'm honest with them. I think it's the only way to go, and those guys have all had successes. We've had a ton of guys that have had successes to that end, but also high school guys too. So.
With that, we'll let Coach go. We've got a number of one-on-ones set up, so appreciate everybody coming.
Thank you again for coming, guys.